All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star in here. What's happening? How are we feeling?
Day. I just wish the golf season was just a little bit longer, but it's officially over. It's in the books.
It's in the books. It's over. The weather is still beautiful. It doesn't really feel like a hockey night tonight.
No, it was like hot today. It was like a hot kind of fall day.
Like beautiful fall day.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful fall day.
Like I was out doing the leaves, and I was just sweating buckets.
Yeah, you had the Doug Gottlieb. Did you see Doug Gottlieb make his debut last night? I think it was last night because he's been an analyst, radio guy forever. He was a basketball player, went to University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And these college coaches, they still wear the suits.
Right.
Like the NBA guys just said, screw it, right? When
They're
they
not
hit
doing
COVID,
it.
never bringing it back. We remember interviewing Nick Nurse, and I asked him, I'm like, Nick, what's up with the suit? Are you going to bring that back into rotation? And I could tell he didn't want me to bring that up. And once we brought it up, Nick was like, bluntly, no, we're not doing that. There's Doug. So, so the college coaches, they still wear the suits, but they take the jackets off. This guy was sweating through his shirt by the end of the first quarter.
That's why I say to the training staff, get me a hoodie, and I'm never doing this again.
Right, black T-shirt.
Black T-shirt.
Black T-shirt.
Why torture yourself?
That's it. So that was you raking the leaves today,
That was me.
Is basically
that was exactly
what you're saying.
me. Because I overdressed. I was like, it's fall. I got to get out there with basically the same no tie, but like a flannel shirt and jeans.
Can't do it, man.
Nuts. It was shorts weather.
It does feel like this time of year you kind of put the weather app away. Like when I'm golfing, I'm studying the weather app. Like I can tell you where the wind is coming in 48 hours. Like I have a full read on that. Right when the clubs go away and the next 6 months, I don't have a clue what's going on with the weather. And today it was beautiful. And we do have a Leaf game tonight. We got a lot going on. We got a big week, right? We got a big week. The Raptors were in action last night. Shout out to Owen Wilson on your victory last night. It was actually a great football game. Brilliant football game. And I have gotten to a point, and maybe this has been established for a while, but I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. Like, Baker's a really likable grinder, man. He's a big game player, and they lost, and they didn't go for two at the end of the game, and we'll get into that. And Todd Bowles' explanation, I think, left a lot of people kind of wondering what the hell he was talking about. But they showed up to Arrowhead. They battled. They fought. They almost had it. But in the end, the Chiefs are 8-0. And
it's crazy how his persona, it's all the association with the Cleveland Browns as well. It's like if you go to that organization, you just go down the toilet with everything else.
That's what we were talking about yesterday. About like in the NHL, if you're on certain teams, like Buffalo is the team we used as an example. If you're Sam Reinhart and Ryan O'Reilly of the Buffalo Sabres, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if you got it. If you're the Sam Reinhart of the Florida Panthers, you're a champion. Yeah. Ryan O'Reilly of the Blues, you're a champion. If you're the Baker Mayfield of the Browns, I don't like it.
And that's an awful spot to be in, man, but you got to get out of that. Or it's like, you want to talk about two suffering fan bases? Like, they've got to be saying to themselves, when are we going to stop saying, let alone winning games, when are we going to get out of the ditch where people aren't talking about what you just said?
That your reputation is immediately intact. If you get drafted there, you're a loser. That's how bad it is. You get drafted there, it's like, that's not good for you.
It's a quarterback graveyard.
Yeah.
The list of guys who've just gone there to die is just so long, we can't even name it. It would take all show.
Yeah. Yet Baker was the first overall pick.
Yeah.
And listen, it didn't work out great for Baker. And Baker, he's had his ups and downs, and I'm not suggesting he's going to the Hall of Fame. But he's got some courage in the pocket. He makes some nice reads and nice throws. He brought Tampa to the playoffs. He looked really good last night. They're 4-5. I think they're in trouble now. But he's a likable guy.
Yeah.
Like, Baker's a guy I like watching play ball.
Well, I would have liked to see him try and run a 2-point convert last night instead of giving the ball back to Patrick Mahomes in overtime.
It's just amazing how often it happens with that team where you're like, how do you not realize you don't have a choice?
No.
Like, if you rely on the coin flip, you're in trouble, man. And the way that defense works, the way that stadium is, even if you win the coin flip, I don't know if you're going 60 yards down the field to score a touchdown and close. I don't know if you're going to do that. But here you are. You're inside the red zone. Find your best play. Try to win the ball game. And Bulls just couldn't do it. And even the thought of this conversation is a pretty amazing pendulum swing in my lifetime, in our lifetime, where like 20 years ago, no one talked about going for 2.
No.
Like ever. It was like, are you crazy? Why would you ever go for 2 unless mathematically you had to?
It was like a specialty play.
It was a specialty play. Like it was just something
almost a trick play.
We're down 8, we scored, we obviously have to go for 2. It was never thought of as you better go for 2. I think it's largely driven by analytics, the numbers, the coin flip, but also the scenario now, and that's scenario 1A in pro sports. Arrowhead, Mahomes, you have to go for 2.
Yeah.
You have to. And Bowles just didn't have the courage to do it, man. I think that's what it was. I think he was like, if I go for it and miss, that's not going to be good. That's not going to be a good look. Do you want to hear Todd Bowles after the game and his explanation? Let's hear what he had to say.
Very minor. We wanted to get it to overtime with the wet conditions on the field. We felt like we had to go in overtime instead of go for 2. So we had our shots. We lost the game.
I don't know, in the past you mentioned you have communications upstairs about decisions, analytically, things of that nature. Did they advise you not to go for 2? What was...
No, we went for 1. We took our shots. We had our chances all game. We just lost the game. It didn't come down to that.
Gonna have to go ahead and disagree with you there, Todd.
Well, the thing about the wet conditions, that made the single point dangerous too.
Right.
You could flub a snap just as easy as you could flub a 2-point conversion, right? On the 1-pointer. So the 1-pointer wasn't a given, okay, in wet conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And as the underdog, you've taken it to the brink. You've got a chance to walk out of there with an unexpected win. I just don't see how the percentages don't all line up. Like, how does every guy on that coaching staff from the press box down to the field, there should be like a dinger going off saying,
especially against the boogeyman, like,
right?
Jesus.
Well, that's it. And you know what? A lot of coaches have done in the past, and I'm pretty sure it was John Harbaugh that did it recently. They establish it week of preparation.
Right.
So, in other words, on Tuesday or Wednesday, Luke's told us this story before, where I think Pete Carroll maybe had that in the game book. If we get in a position where it's inside a minute and we can win it with a 2-point conversion, we're doing it.
Right.
Regardless of the weather, regardless of how the game is swinging, we establish it beforehand. We are going for it. And that's an example of why maybe you do that beforehand, so that there isn't any questioning, so that there isn't any wavering or, I don't know, the field conditions. And obviously there are scenarios where it might take you out of it. If you go offside and all of a sudden you're at the 6-yard line or 8-yard line, okay, then you do what you're going to do. But I know of coaches in the NFL that make that call beforehand.
Yeah.
If we're at Arrowhead and we have a chance to go for 2 to win it, we're doing it, and we're making that call on Tuesday, not in the moment on Monday night.
I think you see it a lot in the NBA when you watch the end of a game where if they're down by 2, they're not trying to tie it. They want to shoot the 3 ball and win the game.
Especially on the road.
Yeah. They're like, screw it, man. We're not trying to tie this and like get it to over this. Somebody takes a 3 shot and they're going to win it or lose.
Well, that's it. Like Bowles, the game plan was we're going to get to overtime.
That's a loser's. It just sounds like a loser's mentality.
Yeah. And they played so well. Like they controlled that game largely, for throughout the evening. And like the Bucs deserved, I think, to win the ball game last night.
I think what you just praised Baker Mayfield. I think to empower your players, I think as a coach, you get a feel for the quarterback and ask him, what do you want to do here? Honestly.
Yeah.
Like if he's playing good ball and he's the leader of your team, you say, you want to do this right now? Or what's your call? What's your gut telling you? And I think the quarterback would say, I want to try to win this game.
I think Baker probably would have said that.
Yeah, I mean,
give me a chance to win the ball game.
Obviously, but do you look stupid if it doesn't play out?
Well, and the thing is, you never know what could happen in overtime. We now have the ability to say you lost in overtime, so you should have. Like, it is revision. It's hindsight is 20/20, clearly. Now we can say so stupid. But I think my experience watching it live, and I think the majority of people watching it live, was you got to go for 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to. You're back in this. You got a chance to win the game.
Exactly.
Like if it goes to overtime, and I know some people have said, well, there's 27 seconds on the clock and they still had timeouts. That was still the case with the game tied.
Right.
And Kansas City did not march down the field in time to kick a game-winning field goal.
Right.
So now you're 4-5. Now you're chasing the Falcons. You just had an opportunity for a real mic drop moment right in the middle of your season, and it's gone up in smoke.
And to your point, like Mayfield just he's getting some momentum here. He's building belief within that team. If you're the coach and you give him that moment, you got to believe he's a gamer. He can get it done. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What would that do for your season if he did get it done?
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah.
Yes, fine. Godwin's out. Evans is out. We still have Baker.
Yeah.
Like, that's the sign that they would have, I think, hammered into the ground last night, and it didn't happen. So more on that later this afternoon. The NFL trade deadline just expired, so there were some moves today. We'll tell you about that. The Leafs are in action tonight with the Bruins in town. Some big news today. Auston Matthews not playing, out with an upper body injury. And I know we keep looking at his numbers and we've talked about it. He's not scoring. He doesn't look like a dominant force. That's the eye test saying that. Yet he played both games over the weekend. I didn't see anything that suggested he was laboring. He buried Ryan Suter and he looked like his upper body was fine when he buried him late in the game on Sunday night. It's a tough loss considering the way they've been playing, 6-5-2, where they are in the standings, and what they have coming up. We talked about it yesterday. I think tonight is a massively significant game. Mm-hmm. This Bruins team has owned you, flat out owned the Leafs for years.
And it's been one thing or another. When you have the record, and what are we talking? Is it 8 regular season losses in a row?
Yeah, we have the board. Throw it up there, Joe, from the bridge. Courtesy of our boy Jonas Siegel. I think Jonas was the one that actually broke down like all of the wins and losses. But
when they've numbers lost like this
8 regular season games in a row.
And I'd love to say, you know what, it was goaltending every time. But when you have this much, this is not just goaltending. This is a combination of everything. I've watched them all on TV. I've seen some in person.
Yep.
And it's been something different every game. It's been board play. It's been structural neutral zone play. It's been flat out outplayed. It's been a goalie that just missed on a couple. And it's, for the most part, it's been Pasternak and Marchand that have crushed them. But like I said, it's a massive combination of all of it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like how they fizzled out in the playoffs just against this one team. It just seems to be one thing or another where it's like, that just cost you the game.
Well, and you throw in the playoff series, the Bruins are 12-3 against the Leafs.
Yeah.
Over the last 3 years, basically.
And this is a moment where, the Bruins, they've had a slow start to the season. They've been in a bit of a crisis. You've had Jim Montgomery on shaky ground. Now they're coming off two straight shutout wins. So they've seemed to have righted the ship to a degree, but one of those shutout wins, you got Pasternak riding the bench for the third period. You've already had Marchand called out by Montgomery earlier in the season.
Hard to say looking at that board, but it's a situation where you should be licking your chops saying it's our time to get him right
exactly.
now.
That's what I'm
right
saying.
now.
Like, you got to think this could be the shifting of the balance here. Like,
and it should
be the season where you get these guys.
Even without Matthews in the lineup, that should be the mentality tonight.
Yeah.
But it's a big miss. I mean, the reason they got a point the last time they played was because he scored with less than a minute to go, right? I mean, he has not looked like himself. I don't know what the injury is. They've just said it's an upper body. They've got, again, a big week coming up here with teams within their division, and anyone not named Florida is kind of lumped together right now in this division. And Boston tonight, Detroit Friday, Habs Saturday, Ottawa Tuesday. We'll see when he comes back.
The only thing about Matthews, there's been, in the last couple of years, he's had like some type of upper body. He took a couple games to take care of it, came back and was on fire.
Oh, yeah.
Hand one year where it was like his hands bothering him, got to take a couple off, came back, scored 60 goals. So as soon as he kind of takes care of an issue, he comes back absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
So that's the positive that can come out of this.
And there's the roster, or there's the lineup without him. I guess since he entered the league, the Leafs are 35-19-2, and their power plays at 29%, which is substantially better than it is right now.
Yeah, I don't remember that seems like he's missed a lot. I don't remember him missing that much hockey.
He's missed a lot of games. He's been in the league a long time.
56 games over 8 seasons, but they've played in those 56 games without him. It's a 105-point pace. They've done pretty well without number 34 in the lineup. Anecdotally, obviously.
Now, early on in the Tavares era, it was simple. Tavares stepped up as the number one center, and it was like, all right, not a huge drop-off here. This guy's going to carry the load. Tonight, it's Max Domi who's going to play on the top line, and I guess they're going to keep Tavares intact with Nylander and Pacioretty. Mm-hmm. So, Max is going to have to take on a lot of that responsibility, and it's not going to be easy to do that, but it is kind of staggering how well they've played without him.
It is.
And again, we don't know how long he's going to be out, but he is out tonight, and it's a big, big game.
But it's confounding about what's going on with him. Like, I'm with you, it's way too early to start overreacting and saying, well, he's on 31 goal pace, which is what he's on. But it does feel like something's a little different. And, like last game, 5-on-5 does not have a shot on goal, hasn't scored a goal at 5-on-5 in the past 8 games. And this was Mr. 5-on-5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the one thing that separates Matthews from a lot of his peers beyond just the sheer numbers of goals, it's been the fact that at 5-on-5, he's been a dominant force.
Historically great.
He's been historically great. And so you start breaking it down, you start looking at it. I've been talking to people who watch it very closely from the tactical aspect. Like, is the Berube style and the responsibilities that go with that, is that a factor here? Like, is he being asked to do way more defensively?
But he's always been a strong defensive player. That's the one concept I don't understand, where it's like, they're taking away from what he does best. He's always been like busting his ass to get back, been solid in his own zone.
Yeah,
he's always been that.
Well,
what more could he possibly be doing?
He is penalty killing.
Yep.
Which is taking away some of the gas, maybe 5-on-5, possibly some of the opportunities where, again, Keefe would try to set him up. He'd be the first guy out after a kill, try to take advantage of the opponent's third line, fourth line, or a shuffled shift, so to speak. But it may not only be Matthews. Also, it may be what his line mates are doing differently under Berube, where, maybe in the past, Marner would stop up and find him coming down the middle, and it's on a T4. Maybe that's not there anymore.
Because it's chip and chase.
That it's a chip and chase, or it's Marner's thinking, I better not do that because if I lose the puck. I don't know. I mean, is it a scenario where they're asking Matthews to be more Barkov, more Kopitar, and as a result, it's going to take away from some of that offensive prowess? I mean, that's possible. And this is where I think if you're a Leaf fan, this is somewhat of a conundrum, because watching him rip home goals and watching him dance in the regular season has been a blast for 8 years, because he's done it better than anyone maybe we've ever seen wear the jersey. But it's not so fun when you get to the playoffs and it doesn't work for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're hoping for if you're a Leaf fan, that these are growing pains, that Matthews in particular, and maybe it extends beyond him. Certainly it would. Everyone would have to abide by it if he is. Everyone else has got to do it. That the payoff will come down the road. And maybe if he's buying into that, this is actually a good thing. Mm-hmm. Again, we won't have the answer for so long, and that's what makes it so frustrating. And there has to be a balance. You can't have Auston. You can't think your team's in a better position if he's scoring 30 goals for you.
No, a great example
still got to be able to rip homes.
Is the Los Angeles Kings for their 2 Stanley Cups. Throughout their regular seasons, they didn't play a style that was going to push them way ahead of everybody in the playoffs. It was like they just almost barely got in. They won the Stanley Cup as an 8th seed, but as soon as they did get in, they just squashed everybody.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line where, and I had this discussion a bunch of times in the summer where people were talking about how they're going to have to change the way they play. And I think it was my dad who told me, he said, well, don't kid yourself. If they're going to get into the playoffs and have that 110-point season, 105-point season, their big guys still have to produce at a big clip, because that's what helps them get wins.
Exactly.
So they got to find some kind of balance, because those guys still have to produce at quite a rate for them to accumulate the regular season points.
Absolutely. And here's the thing about the playoff performances, it's not like Matthews rips home 15 goals every spring.
No.
He doesn't score that much in the playoffs. So, yes, you're changing things, but you also need to put forth a system and a style of play that will allow these guys to flourish in the playoffs. And that, I think, ultimately is on the individual players. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's on Craig Berube to make sure that there's something in place for the best goal scorer in the world to be the best goal scorer in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think it's a ton to ask to say, look, you guys, you're put in situations to show your skill, whether it be 4-on-4, a power play. If I get you a matchup in the offensive zone after an icing, it's like it's not that much to ask. It's like these guys where it's like nobody wants to play defense in the league anymore. You see how many save percentage? Nobody can keep the puck out of their net in the league anymore.
Well, especially in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that flips is, everyone defends that much harder, because that's what you notice. Like the most noticeable switch is from game 82 of the regular season to game 1 of the playoffs, and the back pressure and what happens on, checking in the neutral zone. And yeah, it's like the forwards, during the regular season are like, I'm not busting ass to get back on that. I'm not doing this or that. Like, I'll make it look like I am. And there's always another gear that everyone finds, if not multiple gears, come playoff time. And that's what it is. It's back pressure. It's shrinking. It's clogging up the middle of the ice and not cheating and not running the zone. That happens all the time in the regular season. And everyone just accepts it. And all 32 coaches are like, there's only so much I can do. What am I going to yell and scream every single shift? You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's easier if the team wins.
Right.
Some guys are trying.
Right.
Some guys
and Montgomery's that guy right now. Like, nobody's trying harder than Jim Montgomery right now. He's on a contract beyond this season. And, he's pulling out some serious stops.
I think he's saying, if I'm going to go out my way, man.
Right.
Screw these guys. I'm going out my way.
That's generally the way coaches go out.
Well, it's a delicate dance, right? Like, he's been really fortunate to have both Pasternak and Marchand have both said exactly the right things when he's gone at them, right? With Pasternak the other day saying, hey, it was a bad pass I made. Apparently he was very vocal on the bench, being supportive of his teammates as he sat there all period without playing. And Marchand, same thing. Like, if I didn't hear that from my coach, we'd be in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting dynamic. And Montgomery's, I think that's a really good sign for Montgomery, but he's still not out of the woods.
Especially with them winning 2 in a row since then.
What they say in the media is one thing, but the most important comments that are made from those players, whether it be Draisaitl in Edmonton, Pasternak and Marchand in Boston, William Nylander, Auston Matthews, it's when they get to a restaurant with 5 other guys, what they say to them about it.
Right.
Not what they say to the media, because every time they're going to say, I got to be accountable. That's what the coach has got to do. Is if they go to the other guys when they're out for a beer or something, they say, this guy's a bozo, then it's game over and you got a big time problem.
Yeah.
So the most important part of all of this is what they say to their 5 closest guys, who's also sending messages to 5 other guys in the locker room. That's what matters most.
That's why, like, the lip reading of Dak the other day was so shocking to me, because I wouldn't be surprised if he said that out for, steak dinner after the game. Hey, we suck.
Yeah.
We suck.
Because those conversations are had, like, we suck right now.
We can't do anything. And it's generally pointing fingers at other people.
Right.
Defense stinks. The coaching
our goalie sucks. This
goalie sucks. This is,
JP and Doogie are sleeping.
Yeah, it's always JP or Doogie, whatever it is. It's never actually your problem. But to actually say it, on the sideline with cameras around, you're like, it might have been more of a kind of out for dinner type chat. But you're right. Saying something publicly is one thing. What the actual reaction is going to be privately is completely different. And I think we'll find that out tonight, how Pasternak responded. Because that's another thing that's kind of colliding here is Matthews is out, and Pasternak, you would think, has a spark under him tonight.
Yeah.
After he was embarrassed, more so than probably at any point in his career. Now Montgomery called him out in the playoffs a lot.
Right, Game 6 said we need more from Pasternak.
Yeah.
What does he do? He scores the Game 7 winner.
But didn't sit him in the playoffs.
No.
You see him pulling a 4th line move, which is TV timeout, you hop over, and like anyone that's got bench, you've had to do this. You go for a buzz to get your legs loosened up. I never thought I'd see David Pasternak doing that. There's viz of him hopping over and going for a toot in the corner around the rink people that are scraping the ice off.
Yeah.
Like, that's a chopper move. And I never thought Pasternak would be doing it.
Well, it makes you wonder, though, like, I agree with you. Like, it does matter what kind of uptake you're getting from the guys in private, right? Whatever they say publicly, it's usually garbled. You're never quite sure exactly what they meant, especially around Leafs. The Leafs know how to kind of mumble through an answer and not really give you an answer. But the question is, like, is the coaching working? Are they receptive to this coaching? Because let's not forget the history of this team, right? What happened when they fired Mike Babcock, who was very much a north-south, do it my way, do it right every day kind of coach. As soon as they fired Mike Babcock, all they kept saying was, Sheldon Keefe's going to allow us to have our skill come out. And now, is this a guy in Craig Berube who's sort of stifling skill for the north game, right? Go north, not east-west, even though these guys are great at going east-west and they love going east-west. I wonder, like, how long will it be until we kind of realize that these guys feel stifled by this style of play? It might be successful, but are they going to enjoy it and are they going to buy into it?
Well, and ultimately, who wins if they don't?
Right.
Because history would suggest the players do, especially these players.
Right.
Generally speaking, these guys get what they want in the end. So this gets back to where Matthews is the most important person in the organization, in my opinion, because he needs to drive the bus on that. Because if he's the guy out for dinner saying, man, I'm going to score 38 this year, like what the hell is Berube doing?
How much does that blow?
Yeah, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if he's out there saying, whatever it is,
here's what he has to
we're
say,
chugging.
guys, we never win in the playoffs. We got to change something.
That's what you would think is so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to give these guys the credit and the benefit of the doubt that is the way they see it. I certainly hope so. I find it impossible to believe otherwise. Now, still, habits die hard, and it's not going to be easy.
It's impossible to ignore that.
Of course. And listen, when you are of the skill set of Matthews, Marner, Nylander, you're three of the great players on earth. Like, you are phenomenal talents who have put on clinics that have had 20,000 people jump out of their seats and just say, I can't believe you just did what you just did. That is intoxicating. And it's worked for you throughout your life and your career because you get paid what you get paid.
Exactly.
And you are who you are, and you're an all-star, and you're the face of different campaigns and all this kind of stuff. But they've been here for 8 years, and they haven't won. And if they still don't get that, then you got the wrong guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's the ultimate experiment, I would think, if I'm Rodgers, Keith Pelly, Shanahan, all the way down. If you get one blowback, one whisper, I don't know, you got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Because you have to do it differently. You have to try something different that, again, it's not going to apply in November, but that hopefully will change your fortunes in the spring. Because as we've said and as we've known forever, as big as these guys are, as much of a celebration that comes with their names and their accolades and their skill sets and the money and the campaigns, and you win, it's a completely different beast that they don't even understand.
No.
And no one in this city really understands anymore because it's been so long.
And too long.
But I think this is the ultimate experiment if I'm the Leafs, because if there's any blowback from these guys, you got to change it immediately. Because if there's anybody in this city or in this franchise that should say, I will do anything to win, it's Matthews, Marner, Nylander. Those are the three guys, with Riley and probably Tavares too. Other guys that are just trying to get going, maybe they're like, I don't know, I got a long career here. I'm not the face of this or whatever. Nick Roberts, whatever. I got to play. I got to score. I need to make a career. Different story.
Wow. That would help if some of these secondary guys started scoring.
That would go a long way.
Take a lot of the pressure off.
That would go a long way.
Not
A
scoring.
couple of them got to get cooking
Yeah.
a little bit.
For sure. I mean, the secondary scoring just hasn't been there.
No.
It has simply not been there. All right, confirm and deny coming up. Mike Johnson will join us. The game's on TSN4 tonight. Johnny will be live at the rink. Leafs Bruins tonight. We're coming off Week 9 in the NFL, chugging towards Week 10. The NFL trade deadline was today. We'll keep you updated on that. The Raptors battled again. We'll get into that. They lost last night, but they battled, and they've battled outside opening night very, very well. Dave Feschuk's in here from the start with the O-Dog Jeff O'Neill. I'm Bryan Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050N on TSN4.
I can neither confirm or deny that this is in fact a segment.
Austin trades Andrew Raycroft to Toronto in exchange for the rights to Tuukka Rask.
It's been my honor and a privilege to serve as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs Hockey Club.
It's time for Confirm or Deny.
Do you regret giving all those gentlemen the no trades or no movement clauses?
Well, I can neither confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny.
All right, quickly before we get to confirm or deny, I can confirm reports here from ESPN that the NBA suspended Sixers center Joel Embiid for 3 games for the altercation shoving a columnist in a post-game locker room. So that just broke like seconds ago. He hasn't played yet anyway, so this is just more load management, I guess, for Embiid. Maybe he wasn't even going to play anyway. But this story was quite something. I think it was over the weekend it happened, where there was, I think his name's Chuck Hayes or
Marcus.
something. Marcus Hayes.
Yeah.
Chuck Hayes. That was a former Raptor. Chuck Hayes, of course.
Good
Marcus
idea.
Hayes, who was a columnist down in Philly, had written an article about really going at Embiid about how he's not prepared to play, out of shape, always injured.
That's been the case for a long time.
Long time. And then he went and he wrote something about Embiid's son being an inspiration for him and his brother who passed away. I think, was it last year? Over the last couple of years, Embiid's younger brother passed away.
A while back.
A while back. Okay, it was a while back. And Hayes wrote that in the article, saying, and I read it, and I was very uncomfortable with the way he wrote that. Personally, I didn't like the fact that he's basically the way it read was, and I can find the article, you can find it, Duke, was, Embiid has stated that these two are inspirations for him to be great. Well, in order for you to be great, you got to play.
Right.
And then referencing, his son and his brother who's passed away. And Embiid obviously was furious about it, was looking for him, and he was in the locker room the other day, went at him, yelling and screaming at him, pushed him, and obviously the NBA has decided to suspend him.
Yeah. Pushed him like, I don't know. I guess you should suspend the guy even if he just got in his face. Like you can't go up to somebody and.
No,
look. I mean,
is there viz of it? Like, is it?
Well, it was in the locker room. I would guess there is. It hasn't gone viral. It hasn't been out.
I didn't see anything. I didn't see it. I don't know what the push was like, and I don't. To my knowledge, I'm not sure Marcus Hayes has even complained about it, but clearly you can't put your hands on anybody anytime. I mean, that goes without saying.
Mm.
But, to your point, Hayes, I mean, it wasn't the most eloquent column in the history of columns for sure. But I think the point Marcus was making was, you say this means a lot to you. You say, this is about your family, and this is about, drawing inspiration from these two important people in your life.
Yet you never play.
Yet you don't take the game seriously. You don't take your job seriously. You don't show up to work seriously, which has been, frankly, a criticism of Joel Embiid going back many, many years.
Whole career. From when he was at Duke, it was an issue. Everyone knew it was coming.
Colangelo, when he was running the Sixers, had that problem, had all those,
or Kansas,
had all those burner tweets about Joel.
That's all they talked about with this guy's diet. Like, this guy refused to eat good food.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's legitimate criticism.
Yeah.
My issue is that it felt like he was using something very personal to him to continue to to take the shot.
Yes.
Where I don't think that was necessary. If you say, hey, listen, you want to get paid $60 million a year, but you go ahead. That's fair game. To me, it's like, why bring up his son, his brother who passed away?
No, but but Embiid brings them up.
I understand that.
That's
I understand
the
that, but
point.
He's using that to leapfrog into you. You're basically what he's writing is, you don't believe that, or it was almost the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of read it as like, well, that means you're disparaging them because you've used them as inspiration, but you're not even going to play for them. Like, to me, that just became a little bit too personal.
Yeah, fair enough.
And unnecessary for a columnist, where you can blast the guy.
Yes,
many
different ways.
Many different ways.
You don't need to use the family.
To say, hey, your son probably thinks you don't play enough. Like, and that's not exactly
That's not what he said, but I agree. I agree. Like, dragging the family, probably unnecessary, but let's face it here. This wasn't about those words on that page. This has been about Embiid lashing out at everybody that's been criticizing him. We heard him talk about the city. He's done too much for Philadelphia to put up with this bleep and bleep.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
he's won nothing.
What have you done for Philadelphia?
Yeah, he's won nothing.
What have you done for Philadelphia?
Yeah.
I mean, going back to 2019 when the Raptors eliminated them on the famous 4-bouncer by Kawhi, look at that series. They should have won that series. If Embiid would have shown up for every game, they would have beat the Raptors. But one day it was the stomach ache. The next day he's under the weather.
Mm-hmm.
You'd watch the Sixers coaching staff walk into the arena off the bus, and you'd be hearing them talking to the media members. I knew a couple of them from previous, employment here in Toronto, and you'd be like, what's Embiid looking like tonight? You get the little eye roll, or you get the little shrug.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. We don't know what Embiid's going to be tonight. If he's good, we're probably going to win.
It's pretty tough to criticize anything that's coming at you when you never play. It's the bottom line.
Right.
When you never play, and there's been talk about you never playing back-to-backs the rest of your career, it's tough to come fire back at anybody, man.
Well, I hear what you're saying. And again, I think the reason why he was over the top with this guy.
It got personal.
It got personal. Where, listen, Embiid is in the firing line because of his own actions, because of his own stupid comment. Saying on the record, I'll probably just never play back-to-back is so absurdly dumb.
Well, you talk about personal. You're getting personal with Adam Silver.
Yes.
You say that.
Right. And it's offensive to, I think, again, fans and ticket holders who are like, oh, I'm looking at my tickets. It's back-to-back. Embiid's probably not going to play.
Right.
It's a silly comment. And there's been people going at him all the way from the top of the NBA pyramid. Like Charles Barkley's blasting him. And, it's easy to go at a columnist as opposed to going at Chuck. But I get the impression that you're right, that Embiid is really sensitive to this because he's on blast constantly. But this one did have a slightly different connotation because his claim is, my son's involved in this and my brother's involved, and that doesn't seem necessary. And
yeah, but that to me, that was just diversionary tactic, right? That was just like him changing the narrative to try and make himself look like the sympathetic figure, even though he's the guy trying to give the finger essentially to the fans of Philadelphia.
Well, now he's been suspended for 3 games. Again, I don't even know if he'd play anyway.
Well, I was going to say, what's the point of suspending a guy that doesn't want to play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Take his money away.
Yeah. But again, talk to the team about that. They just gave him a massive extension. The guy never plays.
Yeah.
And that's the at the crux of the NBA right now is that they just have too many great players who are like not playing.
Yeah.
Not doing it tonight. And they've allowed it to get so carried away. And I don't see how they ever get the cat back in the bag.
Sports has become so desperate. Like 20 years ago, it seems like a guy that never played, as good as he is, the organization, regardless of what the situation would be, they'd be like, we got to walk from this guy. Never plays, doesn't want to play. Now it's like, we got to give this guy a $275 million extension. We have to.
Yeah.
Like that exactly. Is a massive flip in sports in the last 20 years where it's like, we got to have, everyone is so desperate to obtain and retain talent. It's like, you got to do it. We got to give him $275 million.
Mm-hmm. Whereas
before it was, we could get rid of this guy, man. Get somebody else.
It was exactly. You had to play. Like it swung to the point where like Mahomes kept playing last night. And my thought was, well, you're 7-0, just pull the shoot.
Dude,
I've been programmed like that.
Marty Brodeur, Dominic Hasek played back-to-back games.
Yeah.
Best goalies in the world. They were always back-to-back, you'd be like, who's in net? You're getting them again. That's Marty Brodeur. Like, they would never take games off.
No, it's so extreme. And the NBA is the most extreme. Like, it's so extreme. And Adam Silver's allowed it because he's been so soft. Yeah, we're going to do what we can to avoid back-to-backs. Like, those are his words, where he's like, we got to find a way to get away from back-to-backs. Like, it's pretty complicated. You have TV, you have buildings, you share buildings, you only play so many months of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's your concern, is trying to get away from it so the players are happy? Like, it's crazy how he's allowed this to get to this point. But, yeah, Embiid suspended 3 games. And, I mean, the facts are, and we all agree, myself included, you can't go push somebody or shove somebody or, regardless of how you feel about something. But the article, I understand why he'd be more pissed about that than just getting blown up for other actions or comments.
This is about Embiid sitting there going, I'm in hot water. The whole town hates me. I got to point the finger somewhere.
Right.
I got to point the finger somewhere other than myself. And so he's going at Marcus Hayes because he's desperate to go at somebody and blame somebody else for his problem. Blame somebody else for the fact that he doesn't want to play. Now, I think he wants to play. I just think part of the NBA's problem is it's just the physics of being, 7 foot plus, however many pounds Joel Embiid weighs on any given day, and running around a court 82 games a year. It is like, there's no doubt.
Okay, Dave, but if anyone would say, okay, have 60 games then.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to keep complaining about how many games and you can't play, don't have that many games.
I agree.
How many fans, I don't know if Silver's ever addressed this, are going to games and saying, this is the lineup that I paid to come and watch? Give me a break.
That's why they're getting crushed, though.
Yeah.
But again, you can't ask all these networks to pay you billions of dollars and then say, actually, you only have 60 games instead of 82.
Right.
So you can't do that.
Okay, but aren't the networks that are paying all the money saying, we paid you all this money and you're putting that roster out there?
Right.
Isn't that a problem as well?
It is. And my argument would be, get the players to actually play and fulfill the contract. Like that, it's on the players. The players have screwed this up. And it's the players. There's no checks and balances with players.
No.
And listen, our market's just as guilty. We couldn't wait to salute Kawhi Leonard for load management because it worked for us.
Well,
it paid off.
I mean,
but we were right at the forefront. Don't play him tonight. That's a great call. We need him later. Couldn't wait to do that.
It was a great strategic move.
It worked.
That guy's knee, like, he hasn't been able to play for
it
a
is
full
a
season
miracle
since.
He played as many games as he did in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if you can recall, and by the time the Golden State series hit, he had hit a wall.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he slowed down in the final.
Yeah.
Like, Kyle stepped up big time in the final. Van Vliet had a phenomenal final.
That's the only way I could buy into load management. If your team was talented enough where you could get by without them, and come playoff time, the guy was an unbelievable difference maker, I'd sign off on it. As an organization.
But that's the caveat, as an organization. But you can't, if you're ESPN or TSN, you're like, I need that guy to play, man. I'm marketing this.
I'll tell you what, man. Like, when you think about the way that season went down, you think about the alternate potential history of that Raptors team. Like, you go down 2-0 to Milwaukee, right, in the Eastern Final, where like 90% of the teams historically down 2-0, we're not going to come back, and you go to OT of Game 3. Like, if you lose that Game 3 and you lose that series, I'll tell you what, all the buddy, Kawhi was a great teammate. There would have been there would have been players on that team who would have come out and said, this is ridiculous. Like, this guy didn't play all season. There was resentment that had built up there. The Kawhi not playing.
Dude, if you're busting your ass every day and someone's just a part-time player making way more than you, it rubs people the wrong way. I don't care who you are, man.
Well, especially knowing that he was a free agent and he was going to get paid.
Right.
And
he was thinking 2 contracts ahead.
Exactly.
He was thinking, can I get 2 contracts with this knee?
Right.
Like, those were words those were the words flying around that
well,
team.
I mean, we were talking about out for dinner with the boys. I'm curious if in Philly, is Tyrese Maxey out with a couple guys saying, what the hell's with this guy? Is he ever going to play? Because Philly's off to a brutal start.
Yeah.
They need him to play. And they need Paul George to play.
He wanted to go to the Olympics so badly. And play for the USA, his third potential passport.
Right.
Yeah. I think Paul George played his first game last night.
Right. Yeah, he hasn't been playing. I mean, that's the scenario they're in.
And that's the question. Like, you wanted to, like, NBA owners have been so against guys going to the Olympics for so long that they almost forgot to be against it anymore.
Right.
They've been against it so long. But you talk about an instance where this guy did not need to go to the Olympics. Like, if the U.S. couldn't win without Joel Embiid, the U.S. had a problem, and he wasn't that big a factor, even though they were paranoid about not having enough size. Like, if you're a Philly fan, how do you not resent the fact that this guy spent his summer prioritizing a gold medal over prioritizing his paying gig, which happens to pay him awfully well?
It's a good question, because, like, you were ready for that, and now you're not ready for this.
Right.
2 months later. Even Kawhi had the sensibility to say, I got to pull a shoot here. I'm not doing this.
Right.
And he did. All right, we'll come back with some confirm or deny. We played it. It was a tough transition. I just saw the breaking news as we were coming in. Johnny coming up as well, and Leafs Bruins tonight. We're teeing that up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. Leafs Bruins tonight. Little rapid fire confirm or deny. We'll sprinkle some in throughout the afternoon. Matthews not playing tonight. 5 goals to start the year. Confirm or deny. Auston Matthews will still win the Rocket Richard.
Ooh. You know what? I'm going to say confirm, because I can't think of one person that is just cooking with gas right now where you're like, watch out for that guy. He'll take off. Who would that be?
Kucherov is scoring a lot of goals. He's never scored 50 to my knowledge. Mid to late 40s. Cole Caulfield's off to a great start. I don't think he's getting 50 plus. Great start.
Reinhart.
Sammy's done it before.
He could be the guy.
Sammy's
but I think
done
the
it.
Rocket Richard this year, I don't think it's crazy to say it might be 55 or 57 goals.
Exactly. Maybe less.
Yeah, I'm going to deny it. You can't win it every year. You can't win it every year. And this looks like the year that would be a statistical fallback given what's being demanded by the head coach in 5-on-5 play, in north-south play that this team has not been accustomed to. So there's going to be an adjustment period. For whatever reason, the power play can't get it going. He's got 1 power play goal after having a career-high 18 last year. I still think he's going to have a decent year by anybody else's standards, but I don't think it's going to be a great year to Matthews' standard.
Yeah, like the amazing thing is this guy could catch them in 2 weeks.
He's back.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
It's nothing for him. No. Like, that's a weekend, but he doesn't look and feel as offensively dominant or on his toes. And I don't know how long this injury is going to keep him out. Maybe it keeps him out tonight in the next couple of games or into next week, and he's just lingering a little bit. And I'll deny it from that standpoint as well, which is shocking for me, because generally I hammer this guy, just rocket this, rocket that, because that's what he does. I mean, every single year, that's what he does. Yeah, Reinhardt's got 10, Kucherov's got 10, Panarin's up there, Connor's up there, Draisaitl.
Hey, Willie might beat him.
Willie's up there, Braden Point can rip home goals. Like, there's a number of guys who are going to be in the running.
I just think that he could almost miss a game, miss 2, and then have a reset and come back and absolutely blow everything out of the water.
Of course he can. And it doesn't change
happen, though.
His standing as the king of goal scoring. He still wears the crown. If he scores 38 this year, that doesn't change, in my opinion. He's still the man. But it is tough to do it consistently every single year. Ovi's got 7. That's pretty incredible.
That's
Ovi's
impressive.
got 7.
He might do it this year. That's stupid.
Win the Rockets?
No, break Gretzky's record.
I think he's going to.
Well, look where he is now.
He's on pace.
He's on pace to do it. He's got 7 goals. Like, the guy, he's going to make it interesting.
He is.
Like, will he stay healthy is the ultimate question. Can he stay healthy? But health has never been an issue throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
Guy's always played. Like, that's another amazing thing about him. Like, he plays all the time. He never misses it.
Never.
And he still jumps through the boards when he scores or when his teammate scores. Like, his kind of
his motor.
Jubilance and his motor, it just has not died at all.
That's true.
Like, if he passes Gretzky, I can't even imagine what he's going to do. What his celebration will look like.
Do you think he shuts it down after this year? I don't know what he has for a contract. Is this the last year of his deal?
No, I feel like they extended him. I think he's got a year or 2 left. I would think he keeps playing and tries to build on Gretzky. You know, because if he passes him, he's going to barely get him this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would think he'd come back for a year or 2, try to tuck in 50 or 60 more and really give yourself a big lead.
You give Matthews the hill to climb.
Because Matthews is the guy that's climbing after him.
Yeah.
Like, Matthews is on pace to beat him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like that's where they're going. All right, we'll get to some more confirm or denies a little bit later on. That was a good one. Joel Embiid and an Auston Matthews chat. We'll see what Johnny has to say about that. Mike Johnson coming up. Leafs Bruins tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.